Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is once again that time of the week. It is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. So, lot of stuff happened over the weekend. It looks like Marine Le Pen was defeated in the French election, and fortunately, the resistance continues. There's this really good story on Democracy Now! Talked about it in their broadcast from Monday. They were discussing I believe this is Tuesday. I'm sorry. And they were discussing, basically there was a large protest. About 30,000 signatures were brought before the winner, Macron, demanding a more leftist, populist platform in the government. And for those you don't know, he ran as a centrist. It was actually a very interesting election. Both of the two major French parties, neither of them got to the final round, and it basically came between a centrist, a member of the centrist party, and Marine Le Pen, who's part of the National Front, which is a far right. Basically, if the dog whistle politics that Trump used during his election run were a political party, that would be Marine Le Pen. And not to say the Republicans are somehow better, but they're decidedly they didn't necessarily come up with Trump's cartoonishly racist and overt version of it. Whereas I'd say like Marine Le Pen, like she represents her party. Trump kind of hijacked the Republicans and they went along with it because, hey, it worked, unfortunately. Of course, it goes without saying, one of the big reasons Macron won over Le Pen, probably the single largest reading, the voter turnout in France for this election was 76%. America hasn't had a turnout like that in decades. I believe the turnout for 2016, I'll get the exact number just a sec. I believe it was somewhere around 51 to 49%. Oh, actually, I highballed it. It looks okay. Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me, just a sec. Yeah, I highballed it. It was actually 59.7. Oh, okay. Actually, sorry, I did misspeak. 59.7 voter turnout in the 2016 election. I was thinking about previous election for that. 2012 was not very high, but so still, that's we are the point I'm really trying to get at is our voter turnout in these major elections is lower than any other like modern westernized country on the planet. And a lot of that has to do with, habitual voter apathy and deliberative disengagement. Our culture does not value civics in the way that it used to. It doesn't incite or entice people to go and participate in democracy, because a lot of people, for good reason, view it as a kind of a game system. You're kind of, whichever flavor of oppression you like, that's the one you're going to get. And that is not that doesn't even speak to some of the election integrity issues that we have here in the United States, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit further in the program. But a lot of talk lately about how the 2016 election ended up the way it did. And, the single largest reason beyond anything else is really voter apathy. And even with that election having slightly higher numbers than the previous ones at 59%, that's still a very depressing figure. And frankly, we're really not going to be able to get the kind of choice we want until people engage with the political process. But why should they? Why should they, when there's all this evidence that, whoever they vote for are going to have these sort of centrist neoliberal policies, and one may be worse than the other. And in this case of our previous election, one was certainly a lot worse. But the bar was far, far too low in the first place. And one of the things I really respect from what I've been hearing from a lot of the French media is, and especially in contrast to the reaction I've been seeing from Americans, Americans take the election of Macron and like, good job, France. We're very proud of you. The French, there was a poll, 60% of people voted for Macron. Literally, in the polls, they said, because he wasn't Le Pen. And, there's a lot of that kind of lesser evilism going on in a lot of the vote for Hillary back in 2016. But the French are not shy about it. And in fact, like I said, right after he got elected, they went out there in the streets and started demanding something more left, something better. And, in particular, what I'm concerned about is this tendency to settle. The French, when they elected their centrists to stopgap somebody from the fascistic right, they didn't celebrate. They didn't pat themselves on the back. They rolled up their sleeves to take on neoliberalism. And in the resistance, as it is right now, I'm starting to get very concerned that there is a palpable sense that, you stop at resistance to Trump. You're resisting against his administration. But what comes after that? Do we just want to return to baseline? What are we looking at? Like the Obama administration? The Obama administration where, he protected Wall Street interests and escalated our interventionist warfare into 7 different countries. Do you want to go back to mass deportations? Maybe that didn't have all the nasty rhetoric behind Trump, but that still occurred. Do we want to go back to somebody who would put us under a trade deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which I would regard as nothing less than Orwellian capitalism? Is that what we want to go back to? Is that it? We're going to resist anything worse than that so we can return to that happy baseline where we're all getting oppressed in a more polite fashion, as it were. Because, and this kind of spawns from, Bill Maher came on a show the other day and was just lambasting people on the left who didn't like Hillary Clinton or who called her the lesser evil, who voted for Jill Stein or a third-party candidate. And worries me about that. Look, you can't use Donald Trump and his administration as a yardstick against, Democrats who have also participated in corruption and frankly war crimes, and say, well, they're not as tall as Trump's list of atrocities, so they're okay. They are okay to vote for. No. It is a rejection of that kind of, culture of lowered expectations that got us into this mess. I'm not just talking about the people who voted for Trump, but the people who decided to stay home because they were just so disgusted with their choices. And I frankly don't blame them. And, let's be clear and go back to this whole idea that, and look, this idea that, it was hyperbolic to call, Hillary Clinton the lesser evil. Now, I've said before, I appreciate the work she did in her early career. She used to be a really great advocate for healthcare and for children, and I often liken it to she pulled a Walter White. She saw the money, she got corrupted, and she was able to work that system very skillfully and very in a very tactical, ingenious way. But look at the things that happened when she was Secretary of State, the Honduran coup, what happened in Haiti. Her collusion, again, with a lot of these Wall Street interests that are selling out the rest of the country. And, something that I always go back to, and please don't forget this, and all of the obfuscation that is going on now about legitimate criticisms towards both her and the Democratic platform in that election, something you should always... that I hope my listeners will always remember is climate change. That was the issue that hit me harder than anything else. Because 2016, you look at the data. I've done a lot of research into it myself. There's a lot of estimates say by 2020, that might be the point of no return. After that point, we are locked in to a certain degree of catastrophe, possibly extinction. And so the 2016 election was important for a lot of reasons. But first and foremost, it was finding somebody who was willing to stand up and do what was necessary to prevent the most apocalyptic scenarios painted by our current climate scientists. And we had two people, three, I can recall: Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, Mimi Slitsky. Their platforms had what it took to prevent climate catastrophe. Donald Trump, Gary Johnson, no. And neither did Hillary Clinton. This is a woman who supported fracking, who was not as ambitious in scaling back fossil fuel infrastructure, nowhere near as ambitious as Bernie Sanders. And even after she got pushed a little bit to the left when the Democratic Platform Committee met, her platform still offered little more than a slower Armageddon. When you are faced with an existential crisis, you either do or you don't. We needed a World War II scale effort on climate change, and they offered a penance. And by they, I mean like Hillary and the people in her campaign. They offered a penance. Now, if that doesn't speak towards some sort of bad character, is it dramatic? Is it too dramatic to use the word evil? Frankly, I don't think so. Because we're talking about somebody who was playing political chess with the potential extinction of the human race and decided to say, oh, let's be incremental about it. I'm sure that will be fine. So, on that particular issue, there might still be a little bit of time. And what I said, depending on whether her or Trump got elected, the only thing that's going to fix the climate is if the people rise up and fix it themselves, if they demand change. Now, there were a lot of people, like back in the election, like Bill McKibben, famous climate scientist, founder of 350.org. At 350 parts per million, that is a particular carbon dioxide threshold. And he advocated, we push Hillary to the left on climate change. And for a lot of my comrades who voted for Hillary, that was their strategy. You get her in office, and then you push and push and push until she does what is needed to be done. Now, I'm not going to knock that. Fantastic and amazing things can happen when you harness people power. I mean, Richard Nixon, due to mass protest and people, the pressure of the population, would sign like the EPA. And, this is Richard Nixon. So, you are capable of shifting people one way or another if you put enough public pressure on them. But what does that speak to someone's character who they need to be pushed to the left on whether or not to prevent human extinction? I would consider that evil. And I talk about this not because I want to just, harp on Hillary Clinton. Look, she's coming out of the woods. Good for her. But to the overall approach that she represents within the Democratic Party's orthodoxy, within their kind of corporatist wing, this is the way these people think. That it's okay to roll the dice with the future of the human race. And that they can win elections just by saying, we're not the Republicans. Well, obviously you can't, because look at the way they got wiped out in 2016. So yeah, it's important to understand, look, when we're talking about lesser evil, you need to call that out. You need to call that out, because otherwise we will be satisfied with a more comfortable evil, a more comfortable doom. And we should not be comfortable with that. Ever. We will be eaten alive either by elephants or donkeys, and it doesn't matter which. The donkey might do it a little slower and give you a pillow to sleep on, but if they don't have the baselines of what we need for a better future, if you want the resistance to be, let's go back to basically, economic conservatism with a coexist bumper sticker, no, that is not going to cut it. That is not going to cut it for our future. And frankly, we should all demand better than that. If last year taught you anything, That's what it should teach you. We have the right to demand better. And this is speaking for me. Like, I did not believe in the reformation of the political system or in any sort of like political revolution, my entire life. I've always been of the mindset, while I've, been an activist and I've spoke to these issues for a long time. I said, there's no hope in reforming, this current system. They're just inherently corrupt. They are gross, disgusting individuals who are willing to sell out their constituents for money. And we're left at that crossroads right now where, look, we can either demand the system we have now be better, or that system will collapse. And to my mind, like, I hang out in a lot of radical circles, and there is an argument to be made where just dismantle the whole thing and start something new. And, personally, I think, society would probably function best in some sort of like anarcho-socialist model where we have individual communities and not some central government, because when you consolidate power to that extent, there's always going to be the temptation for outside influences to corrupt it. But we've got a lot of really huge challenges that are only going to be solved by, taking over the institutional power as it exists, or very, very, very quickly forming and consolidating a global activist community to address these issues. And you gotta fight for both as much as you can, or fight in whichever trench you are most comfortable with. But please, for the hope of our future and the sake of our children, do not settle for more centrist, center-right Democrats. 'Cause that way leads doom. A slightly more comfortable doom than the hyper-racist Trumpism that we're going through now, but doom nonetheless. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna dig into some other topics. You're listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Be apparent, but hunger is a rather prominent issue amongst the student body of Western. The Invisible Need Project is a multifaceted initiative that's aimed to help struggling students. Every 2 weeks, generous people donate their food to the pantry located in the Fawn Student Service buildings or other drop-off locations. All you need to do is grab a reusable bag and grab whatever food you need to help sustain yourself. If anyone's unsure when their next meal will be, or if you have a little extra food you'd be willing to donate, the food pantry is your place. If you're looking to help donate, become a volunteer, or just learn more, call 269-387-4742 or email dosa-inp@wmich.edu for details.
Are you trying to get your local Kalamazoo business name out to the WMU and Greater Kalamazoo communities? Why not do so while supporting Radio Evolution through underwriting and donations? For more information, please visit widrfm.org.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, brief musical interlude, and we will get back to the discussion. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on Wider. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution. So I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about that horrible healthcare bill that the House tried to pass last week. So focusing on the local aspect of it. So our very own Fred Upton was put on that Upton amendment. And there's a good article in the Huffington Post, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But a little bit from this is from Fox 17's coverage. Representative Fred Upton's sudden support of AHCA sparks protest in Kalamazoo. Earlier this week, Michigan Representative Fred Upton was in opposition to the AHCA. Wednesday, he was in favor of it. People in Kalamazoo, where his office is located, took note of his sudden change. More than 120 people showed up for the protest, lining up on Michigan Avenue and chanting loudly in the rain in front of Upton's office. They carried signs and belted out catchy one-liners like ACA is the way, while cars honked in support as they drove by. According to a press release from Michigan People's Campaign, millions of Americans will lose their health care while the wealthy get $600 billion in tax breaks. Actually, there's an interview in here, and I think I'll go ahead and play it. It's actually a colleague of mine. So I'll go ahead and play you guys. This is from that protest on Friday. This is Jessica Martin getting interviewed by Fox 17 News.
With the latest, Lauren.
Derek and Michelle, I am live here in Kalamazoo, downtown Kalamazoo, right in front of Fred Upton's office, but standing next to me is Jessica Martin. She's a part of the Michigan People's Campaign and also vice chair of Young Dems of Michigan. And Jessica, a lot of news coming out of D.C. today, especially regarding Representative Fred Upton. You know, what can you tell us about what's going on here today?
We're here today because we want to push our Senate to speak up and fight for what Fred wouldn't. He flipped his vote today, and it's really upset a lot of people. I have a pre-existing condition. A lot of my family members do, so I myself am at risk of losing my health care, and that will really impact my life. My disorders are rare. So all these people are here today standing for somebody. We've been here since January telling Fred, and that got him to, join our side. And that's why we're so angry. He joined our side, and then he flipped today. And it's pushed Congress to the point to, say that they're going to themselves step down. So Fred has definitely gotten a lot of people angry with this vote. A lot of people are at risk now. And this is to show the Senate that the pressure's on them now. And to show Fred, we're going to vote him out.
And it seems like a lot of people here seem to be upset as cars are driving by, people are honking and things like that.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, why do you think he flipped?
In my personal opinion, this is not an organization's opinion. I think it is for a run at Senate to get other Republicans that stand on his side, such as our president, to get him a seat on the Senate, because the rumor is he's running for Senate. And I think this was a move for that. It wasn't to get support from the people, but from the upper Republicans. So, in my opinion.
And also, too, what's your message for Fred Upton and his supporters? Because clearly a lot of people are feeling the same way that you are.
Aside from that, a lot of people feel the same way that I do. There's a wave of a generation called the millennials that are coming in to vote in 2 years. And there's a wave of other people that are planning on running that they support. And we know that we're getting rid of people like Fred Upton. That is a goal of the Young Democrats, to help cause true change and to help protect the people on our planet. And people like Fred Upton clearly do not do that. He's not a moderate. He does not stand for Michigan. So.
And last question, what's next for you guys? I see you're out here again, you're protesting. It's quite successful. It just came together yesterday. What's next for you guys?
We're going to keep fighting, phone calling, emailing. We're obviously going to keep telling Fred we're not happy with him. We want people to start emailing, calling their senators, saying we need you, because we do. We need you. We need the people to come join us. This was put together in the last 24 hours, so imagine what we're going to be able to do for the next however long it takes to fight for this. Healthcare is a human right, and we have to fight for this. There are 24 million people that are going to lose their health care, and that's going to cause people to lose jobs. That's going to cause our economy to collapse. So if you're not going to think with your heart, think with your pocket. So,
absolutely. Derek and Michelle, again, about 100 people out here in downtown Kalamazoo.
So, yeah, that was a colleague of mine, Jessica Martin. She was getting interviewed by Fox 17. Oh, so, the one thing I would like to extend upon, so the healthcare protests against Fred Upton have been a continual thing. They've been part of this coordinated effort across the country to basically make a stopgap for the Republicans to appeal or repeal the AHCA with what is fundamentally a far worse bill. Now, what's interesting, two things I'll say is one, that is really something the mainstream media does not talk enough about is the role that those direct protests have had in slowing down the repeal of the AHCA and, well, more importantly, stopping the AHCA, which is essentially a giant tax cut for the extremely wealthy, top 2%, that is. And also, for those from like kind of a more progressive standpoint, this is something I take a little bit of issue with myself. Like, why is there messaging about, the AHCA? Obviously I think a lot of my listeners it's like, why aren't we just on single payer? It's important to note that is not necessarily off the table. There's a lot of protest groups I'm working with. Particularly, there are going to be some coordinated national actions going on once that bill starts making some headway in the House and gets introduced to the Senate. Can't remember who put it forward in the House, but I know in the Senate, that was Mr. New Deal Grandpa. Given the circumstances of this very, they kind of dropped this AHCA vote in the House without a lot of lead up to it. So that might change those plans a little bit. And also, the good news is it got kind of stopped in the Senate. Even the Republican senators aren't very happy with it. They want to draft their own bill, try to get it through. Again, we'll see how it progresses. In my personal opinion, we're either going to get single payer at some point. It's fairly inevitable. And it's something that the public is going to keep demanding again and again. The genie really is out of the bottle. I think a lot of people, even people on the left who've traveled around, like myself, like I've been to Europe, I've been to Scandinavia, I've been to these countries where they have universal healthcare systems. And I never quite put two and two together. I'd say offhand, it's like, oh, I wonder why we don't have that. And I'd just be like, well, And, one of the things that really got brought to light in the last election in the public consciousness is like people kind of put two and two together. Like, well, yeah, we don't have health care because it is not in the financial interest of the healthcare industry to do so. Let's not forget even this Obamacare, or the ACA, as it is now, was its original DNA was from Mitt Romney. Romney Care back in Massachusetts when he was governor. So it's not a debate about a leftist versus a conservative bill. It's a conservative bill versus I don't know what you would call the AHCA, the screw poor people bill or something. But yeah, so if you want to prevent the AHCA from happening, but you have some hang-ups about the ACA, which, rightfully so. It doesn't cover everyone. There's a lot of problems with it. And it's far more kind of teetotaling to the insurance lobby, the medical insurance lobby, than it is towards ensuring, universal care. There's the whole nugget about access, but if you're broke and you can't afford it, you're not you're gonna have a hard time getting the kind of care that you actually need. And I wanted to point out something with the House bill. Now, even though I was kind of debating talking about it that extensively because it's getting stopped in the Senate supposedly, but our local rep had a very important hand in this, and it would behoove me to kind of talk about it a little bit. This is from a Huffington Post article. The Upton Amendment can't mask the stink of a GOP healthcare plan. And I'll talk about it. So yesterday, the Republicans announced the so-called Upton Amendment, which would devote $8 billion to subsidized care for people with pre-existing conditions. Wow, guys, that sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? Oh, boy. Oh, let me continue. But this amendment is little more than an $8 billion bribe to moderate Republicans to break their vow to protect constituents with serious health conditions. Recent analysis found that the proposed plan would need to provide at least $327 billion to provide moderate assistance for Americans with pre-existing conditions. The current version of the GOP healthcare bill falls $200 billion short. And the $8 billion consolation prize offered by this latest amendment fills in just 4% of the funding gap. And why is this amendment necessary? Because in their health care plan, Republicans have abandoned their core campaign promise by allowing insurers to raise costs for people with pre-existing conditions. Under this latest plan, an estimated 800,000 Americans with pre-existing conditions would be left to fend for themselves as insurers ratchet up costs unchecked. Perhaps more importantly, the Upton Amendment does nothing to address the multitude of other harmful impacts the proposed law would have on everyday Americans. The Republican plan would strip health care coverage from 24 million people. It would decimate Medicaid as we know it, blocking people struggling to make ends meet from accessing the medical care they need to get and stay healthy. Premiums out-of-pocket costs would skyrocket for American consumers, all while the wealthiest 1% get a massive tax break at their expense. So, let's talk a little bit about the political dynamics here in the 6th District of Michigan. So Fred Upton, he kind of gets by on this image of being the moderate Republican that this article talks about. Of course, if you actually do some digging, like Fred is actually one of the furthest right representatives on climate issues. He's also on the Energy Committee, which is very alarming. But he gets by on this sort of centrist image. He'll do things like he recently he stood up for a I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was this Muslim man who's going to be deported back to Yemen, I believe. He's a local community member, and a lot of people appreciated his bipartisan effort to keep him in the country. But at the same time, this is a representative who is selling out our ecosystem and selling out our health. And, you know, what's really craven about this is, you know, that $8 billion, it's enough for him to say to his constituents when he runs again in 2018, see, I kept my promise. $8 billion. $8 billion was thrown in there to help people in the high-risk pool. And that constituency is probably not going to hear that's like a nickel in the bucket. 4%. That's still going to be hundreds of thousands of people who are going to lose their health insurance. And Upton's put this little Band-Aid on it for his own messaging so that he looks good and that he can use that to trick people into getting reelected in 2018. And, you know, he's on thin ice to begin with because, you know, a lot of the Trump insurgency that gave him a 30-point lead in the last election, those people do not like establishment politicians. I'd say, you know, whoever's running against them, Democrat, Independent, Greens, whatever, they need to really use that, beat him over the head with it, because he's a corporate tool, to speak plainly. So, you know, that's a really good thing to, you know, don't forget that. Because, you know, he's going to be using that to appeal to independents and Republicans, saying, I put this $8 billion in. I'm not the bad guy. And to his credit, he said, I don't know if this will be enough money to cover it. Well, if that's not enough money to cover it, Fred, then why did you pass the bill? Or why'd you put that amendment in there if it wasn't going to be enough? No, he'd probably give me some talking point about, political compromise. Well, you know what? That doesn't really ring too true when, you know, this affects, you know, I was trying to think last Friday when I was at that rally, like, who does this affect in my life? And it actually became harder for me to think, who doesn't this affect in my life? Like, everybody in my family is going to have a hard time with this insurance thing. Ironically, I don't make enough as a dishwasher to be in too much trouble. But, well, who knows? Because with the Medicaid funding being stripped so severely, that might affect me as well. I will certainly have higher premiums if I do have to go to the doctor. So, yeah, that affects me. That affects everyone I know. That affects my dear friend Jessica, who is talking to Fox 17 News. I can't. It's harder for me to think of people who this isn't going to affect than people it won't. So, yeah, the 2018 race is going to be important. As long as the Democrats run an actual, like, leftist progressive, which rumor has it there's a couple of them in the race who do lean that way, or at least, are on the Bernie scale, or are like Bernie levels on the scale of leftism. I haven't heard of any third-party people running yet. So, yeah, if you're holding out for somebody on, like, the Marxist, Karl Marx on the scale, that's, maybe you have to wait a little bit longer. But, of course, we'll see how that pans out. But, that's the message that needs to be brought home, because, it's not going to be. I think it's funny how Republicans in particular view this as like such a partisan issue. And, not that, like, I give the Democrats a lot of heat for, the AHCA being such weak sauce, but they got it right. They're like, well, you're killing people. This bill is going to kill people. And, to the Democrats' credit, they are pointing that out. And granted, they need to stop being so conservative and get on board with, single payer. But, a lot of the pharmaceutical industry has its hand up a lot of butts, if I'm not being too gross, in the Democratic Party. It's actually Dianne Feinstein actually used a Republican talking point when somebody brought it up at a town hall. She's a famous Democratic senator out of California. And she basically gave this line about how we shouldn't give control of healthcare to the government to affect private industry. And I'm listening to that. I'm like, are you? I thought why don't join the Republican Party? Go. Dang it. Oh, Bill Clinton making this crap acceptable. This corporate Democrats crap. No, it really brings back the idea that, like, what is the normal left and the rest of the world is, like, crazy radical here. Single payer. Oh, what are you? Part of the Antifa? Are you gonna throw a brick at me with a mask on? Well, you're making me feel like it. But yeah, again, kind of going back to my earlier point in the program, like, don't accept normal, because right now what's normal in this country is corruption. What's normal in this country is a healthcare plan that doesn't cover everyone in this country. What's normal is an EPA that gets paid off to ignore certain climate events and not clean up certain oil spills, or at least be good watchdogs, or clean up toxic waste dumps and low-income neighborhoods that are racially diverse. Edison neighborhood. What is normal is mass incarceration. What is normal is mass deportations. We don't want to go back to normal. We need to go to better. That's what we need to go to. So you know what? I the line I heart ACA. I go to those protests, and I will shout it. I will lead that chant, but I'll usually follow it up with healthcare is a human right, not just for the rich and white, because that's the core of it. And yeah, we need to protect the ACA in the sense that we do not want the AHCA going through, but right after we defeat that thing, or just work towards single payer, I guess is what I'm saying. It's it's insane. Like 40% of rank and file Republicans like the idea of single payer. So it really just goes to show like how deep the pharmaceutical, the healthcare industry is in the pockets of the people we put in Congress. So just need to get them out. By the way, I know there are a few like kind of right-wing and like libertarian type people who listen to my program, and in a much more broad sense, y'all need to get those corporate Republicans out too. I know y'all don't like crony capitalism, so I guess you guys, I would rather have a debate with honest people than corporate puppets. So, y'all run for office too, okay? We actually have like some people who give a crap in our Congress. All right. You're listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
W. Bush, and you're listening to 89.1 WIDR, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Kalamazoo. You know what you're listening to, Kalamazoo, Michigan, man. What are you, stupid?
Wider FM is proud to be supported by the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. The Kalamazoo Community Foundation is a non-profit organization that takes donations, invests them, and uses the money to fund programs for the betterment of the Kalamazoo community. If you are interested in donation or looking for more info, you can go to kalfound.org.
It's time for our weekly RSO Spotlight here on WIDR Kalamazoo.
Hi, I'm Jose Alexis Mejia.
And I'm Cesar Ortiz.
And we're the brothers of Sigma Lambda Beta International Fraternity Incorporated. We were founded here at Western Michigan University, April 3rd, 1988.
Our 4 pillars are brotherhood, scholarship, community service, and cultural awareness. Our mission statement is to nurture and further a dynamic, value-based environment which utilizes our historically Latino-based fraternity as a catalyst to better serve the needs and wants of all people.
And we strive for higher education, so if you want to contact us at wmubetas@gmail.com and Facebook and Instagram, WMUbetas. Thank you.
This has been our weekly RSO Spotlight here on WIDR Kalamazoo. For more Spotlight coverage, head to Western Herald or YBot Connects on Twitter. To find more information on how to spotlight your RSO, head to widrfm.org.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. You are listening to the 89... You're listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution. So, let's go back and talk a little bit more extensively about... a topic that I touched on a little bit earlier, and that's the whole thing about like lesser evilism, as it were. And I wanted to point out something that I thought was rather important. This is a very interesting take on it. From some researchers who been taking a very hard look at election integrity as it relates to the 2016 election, and this is from reader-supported news, and this is an article from Bob Fitrakis and Harvey Wasserman, and they have a book out. I haven't had a chance to read it. I just found this article a couple days ago. But they are the authors of a book called The Strip and Flip Selection of 2016, 5 Jim Crows and Electronic Election Theft. And that's on Amazon. You can also find it on freepress.org. So their article is called Bill Maher and the Corporate Democrats Need to Stop Scapegoating the Grassroots Resistance. And so they go on to say, corporate Democrats and liberal commentators love to scapegoat the activist left for their catastrophic failures. The blame game just fell to a new low with Bill Maher's latest attack on Jill Stein. Like Hillary branding Trump supporters as deplorables, Bill tells American grassroots activists to go F yourselves with a locally grown organic cucumber. This is in response to Bill Maher had a segment on his show where he was basically tearing apart people who called Hillary the lesser evil and people who voted third party in the previous election for basically helping Donald Trump win. At least that was his assertion. So They go on to say, Hillary says she was on her way to victory when FBI Director James Comey, we're going to be talking about him later, and the Russians intervened. Maher and others say Stein caused her defeat as they blamed Ralph Nader for George Bush in 2000. Which, by the way, they don't mention this, but this is something I do like to bring up every now and again. Mathematically, if everyone in the country who'd voted for Jill Stein voted for Hillary instead, Hillary would have still lost. So please stop making that argument. It's mathematically false. And you can go look up that data. It's not that hard to find. Hillary would have won Michigan, hypothetically. Although her loss in Michigan had a lot more to do with the cross-check system, which actually this article talks about it a little bit more. So I'll go in depth when it brings that up. But let me keep reading. Hillary now pledges to resist Trump's fascism. Maher and other liberal pundits have been relentless in their attacks on him, and the rest of us struggle with the keys to nonviolent resistance in the dark ages now upon us. But one thing is clear. What won't work is another 16 years of liberals like Maher scapegoating left activists without facing the basic realities of where Trump came from. And they go off on a checklist. Like Al Gore in 2000, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Which, here's a thing, like, in all of this energy from the Democrats, okay, actually, no, they're going to be talking about this in a minute, so I'll just keep going. Counting 2004, which was stolen from John Kerry in Ohio, and that was detailed a lot more extensively by Greg Palast, and that a lot of voter suppression and vote switching happened in Ohio in the 2004 election that gave the election to George Bush. They say, counting 2004, Democrats have won every presidential election since 1992. And that counts 2000 with the debacle down in Florida, which also was the result of, hanging chads, voter suppression, etc. Gore and the Democrats have had 16 years to fight the Electoral College, which is a racist, anachronistic system that is designed to enhance the power of slave owners. The Electoral College has put 6 popular vote losers in the White House, nearly 15% of our presidents. Now, I do want to be devil's advocate a little bit here. There are, some people will argue the Electoral College is there to kind of, the tyranny of the majority type thinking. I would say, though, like, the Electoral College, beyond just, like, the implications here, where, it was built to assist not only slave owners, but power brokers in general. The Electoral College was devised at a time before mass media and before, electronic voting, which essentially means, a lot of the reason the Electoral College was a thing was because, back in the day, they had to do all of the votes by hand. This is a very slow process. This streamlined it. That was one of the reasons it came into existence. Also, the Electoral College, part of the founders' own rationale was like the public, doesn't have, like, a campaign doesn't have a national reach. So the Electoral College helps people, or helps, things to go honest. But now that we have mass information and, even people without internet access either have a TV or there's a newspaper or there's a friend who has that stuff, they can be informed about what's going on. Whether they choose to or not, that's a whole nother issue. In fact, one could really go into a lengthy discussion about how much better informed we are. Younger millennials tend to use the tools we have to educate ourselves, although in the decades leading up to the 2016 election, popular culture has really been acting as a numbing agent to keep people unaware of what is going on. So want to touch on some of their other key points. So rather than work to end the Electoral College and win electoral reform, corporate Democrats have spent 16 years whining about Nader, one of America's greatest activists. He really is. I mean, Nader's one of the reasons we have seatbelts in our cars, guys. So, and he gets whacked on the head constantly for being the guy who caused Bush. So let's touch on some of these other things that, like, again, the reason I bring this up is because people like Maher, people like Rachel Maddow, people in the mainstream media on the left, they will blame everybody else except the actual issues we have with election integrity. And not just them, the entire media. Election integrity is perhaps the most taboo subject in American politics, even more so than the military-industrial complex, because every now and again you'll have a Tulsi Gabbard or Rand Paul who will call out our bloated military budget and our interventionist policy, but nobody talks about election integrity. Even when while we're talking about these last 4 elections, and to kind of broaden the context of that, Al Gore got cheated, John Kerry got cheated, Bernie Sanders got cheated by the party he was running in, and then Hillary Clinton got cheated too with the cross check program that basically disenfranchised thousands of black and Hispanic voters from registration rolls in the states that decided the Electoral College. Here in Michigan, 50, it was about 50,000 people, predominantly black and Latino, were expunged from the Michigan voter rolls, and that was enough for Trump's margin of victory. So, in 2000, a little historical context, Governor Jeb Bush used the Jim Crow Choice Point program to strip more than 90,000 black and Hispanic voters from registration rolls in a tally allegedly decided by 537 votes. That's the Florida debacle. In Ohio, 2004, Jim Crow GOP election board stripped more than 300,000 primarily urban black voters from registration rolls in tally decided by 118,775. And in 2016, nationwide, 29 GOP secretaries of state used the cross-check program to strip countless thousands of black and Hispanic voters from registration rolls. It goes on. In Florida, 2000, electronic flipping in Volusia and Brevard counties. This is reported by Bev Harris, allowing Fox reporter John Ellis to flip the network narrative from a Gore to a Bush victory. In 2004 in Ohio, between 12:20 and 2 a.m. on election night, a glitch in the state's computerized vote count, as run under a no-bid contract by a Bush family operative in the Chattanooga bank basement, was used as cover to flip a 4.2 Kerry victory to a 2.4 Bush victory, giving Bush a second term. Nationwide in 2016, electronic irregularities continually flipped Clinton exit poll victories to Trump official victories, including in Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, which were the states that gave Trump the presidency. In New Mexico, 2004, and elsewhere in both 2004 and 2016, thousands of ballots in heavily Democratic areas were allegedly missing a presidential preference, including some 75,395 in Michigan. Oh, I'm sorry. Correct an earlier statement. That was from this year. It was 75,395 ballots in Michigan, and the state, was decided by less than 11,000 votes. And Yeah, the behavior that this alludes to it's endemic. It repeats. And neither Gore, Clinton, neither of them talked about abolishing the Electoral College. None of them talked about pointing out the widespread election fraud that had caused their defeats. It does go on to say, and this is true, Obama was able to basically overwhelm and overcome any shenanigans because he had a large enough of a popular vote margin to basically act as a bulwark against any sort of theft or voter suppression tactics that the GOP could have used against him at the time. They close out their article by saying Clinton, Kerry, Gore, and the liberal punditocracy must finally deal with how they lost these 3 presidencies and then do something about it so it doesn't happen again. They can start by demanding universal automatic voter registration, transparent registration rolls immune to Jim Crow stripping by programs like Choice Point and Crosscheck, universal hand-counted paper ballots, a 4-day national holiday for voting, an end to gerrymandering, the Electoral College, and the corporate purchase of campaigns. But too many of these issues overlap with their own interests. This is me editorializing a bit, but, you talk about, gerrymandering is a system that can give either political party an advantage over the other. It's decidedly undemocratic, but both of the political parties, for the most part, outside of outliers within both parties, like gerrymandering because they can use it to their advantage. And we're not going to have them question the validity of our elections because that bites the hand that feeds them, that bites the narrative that they try to put out there for their corporate interests. Because the money that goes in these campaigns, they are protected by the idea that it's a fair race. And yes, we might be pumping billions and billions of dollars into these presidential campaigns, into these congressional races, but you still have the choice, and it's still going to come down to your vote that is going to decide who is going to be in that office. Well, it's not. And it hasn't been that way for a long time. We're ranked 44th in election integrity in the entire world. And, our elite political class is unwilling to have an open conversation about this. And next time you hear somebody complain about third-party voters or about, Russia or the myriad number of other factors, ask them what they think about election integrity. Chances are they probably don't think about it. They haven't heard about it. Or if they listen to, the few times the mainstream establishment does bring this up, they call it a conspiracy theory and essentially walk away. There's no substantive evidence, counter evidence they present to strike down those claims. This happened to me personally a lot during the election. I bring up this evidence of Crosscheck or, the Democracy Lost document that was devised by Election Justice USA, which is probably like the most extensive dossier on the, as Noam Chomsky called it, shenanigans that occurred during the 2016 primary. And people will balk. They'll call you mad. They'll call you crazy. They'll call you a conspiracy theorist. But the one thing they will not do is disprove your evidence. Because the evidence is true. It's just a lot of people don't. I think it's people have a hard time fundamentally believing or disbelieving that democracy in this country is that far off the rails. That it's beyond even just money and politics. It's that people game the system. And the only ways to really win are either to overwhelm it with so many votes that their tactics don't work, or be the best rigger. Very cynical part of me. I leading up to the election, I talked about some of the things the Democrats were doing, some of the things the Republicans were doing, and I said in a very kind of cynical way, the election's going to boil down to who can defraud the vote the best. Well, as it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, the Republicans have a lot more practice. So yeah, and I know it's difficult. If you're out there and you know this truth here, you know what's going on. It's difficult to talk to people about it. Especially, look, be careful talking about this on Facebook. People get very fired up. It'll get exhausting. Especially the people who are really comfortable with establishment politicians, they will go absolutely rabid on you. But it's not like. And, this is something I've been feeling myself lately, too. You need to be reminded every now and again, you are not the crazy one. You are the one who's mad. You're mad, but you're not not mad. You're mad. Grr. I'm mad because my democracy no longer functions. I am so mad about that. And it's okay to be mad about that. And it's right to be mad about that. And it's right to try to tell people what's going on. And sometimes they don't want to listen. But, Tim Black, he's a popular progressive commentator on the internet, does a weekly news show. I was at a rally in D.C. Back in October, and he said something that I never forgot. He said, don't think that you are just such a master linguist that you're going to change someone's mind in one conversation. Focus on planting some seeds. So that person, even if they are denying everything you say, even if they are upset, angry, maybe they think you're an idiot, maybe they punched you by the end of the night, plant those seeds. So maybe they're walking away, walking home at night, they're laying in bed and they're thinking, what that person was saying, it made a lot of sense. Yeah. Huh. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of a break, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get some H2O and use a little boys' room. Talk more when we get back. Dropping some more truth bombs on the establishment. You are listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Alvan Humane Society is a non-for-profit, no-kill animal shelter that has been serving Allegan, Van Buren, and surrounding areas for almost 50 years. They are hosting their Cares Fund Drive and are over halfway to their $500,000 goal. Alvan can currently house around 30 dogs and 100 cats. Money raised from the Cares campaign will go to build a new shelter, which will expand this capacity by 20%. Alvan Humane Society has 20 dogs and 40 cats that are microchipped, spayed and neutered, and fully vaccinated, ready for adoption right now. To adopt a pet, donate to the Cares Fund Drive, or find out more, feel free to visit them on the web at www.al-van.org.
This is an open slot in the wider clock and could be filled with an underwriting announcement for your local Kalamazoo business. For more information, please visit widerfm.org and head to the support page.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution. So, obviously, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up, one of the biggest stories going on. Real big bomb dropped yesterday. James Comey got fired by Donald Trump. What? That's really weird because I thought he helped him win the election, but okay. Okay, a little bit of sass and sarcasm there. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because, again, this show is primarily about talking about things that the establishment doesn't cover, and everyone has been talking about this nonstop. that is, say, is it alarming? Oh, most certainly. I would say it is. It is comparable to a Watergate moment. I still do stand by a lot of my own concerns about the way the Russian narrative has been used, particularly in the media and by the Democratic Party. I think I used the metaphor a couple weeks ago of the Russia story is a fuzzy ball that the establishment throws at the resistance to distract it from resisting, other things like, neoliberalism, climate change, economic inequality, all that stuff. It's like when the people in the pink hats start thinking, it's like, well, wait a minute, I feel like, military interventionism isn't new, and, and then they'll be like, hey, boy, catch the ball, go see. Yeah, there's a new news story about some Russians underneath Mike Pence's bed or something. But no, I guess I shouldn't really be that condescending about it. There is definitely, I think that proves there's smoke. There's probably some fire there too. And, what I have been saying the last few weeks is that there are definitely some very obvious business ties between Trump and Russian oligarchs. And it looks like, a lot of cozy personal relationships between his administration and people in the Russian government. But, again, I should hope that... okay, here's what I'm afraid is going to happen. Trump gets impeached. Who becomes president? Mike Pence. Now, most of the horrible stuff that's been happening... No. All of the horrible stuff that's been happening since the election has had far more to do with congressional Republicans and people in Trump's cabinet than Trump himself. And all of those people are still going to be around. Day Trump gets impeached. What does Trump do? Oh, he goes home. He probably gets signed on for a new season of The Apprentice. It's like, my name is Donald Trump. I own a lot of great buildings, and I used to be president of the United States. You got what it takes to be The Apprentice? I've never watched the intro to that show. It's some phony baloney crap like that. But yeah, that's really it for me. Trump could get impeached, and we still have all the same problems. Just we'd have Mike Pence is a little bit more calm. But in a lot of ways, he actually has principled views on certain things, whereas Trump just likes his Burger King crown and will sign anything you put in front of him. A lot of people like The Handmaid's Tale. People have been comparing, this administration Handmaid's Tale. Oh, it's going to get way more handmaiden-y if Mike Pence becomes president. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, I think this was an alarm going off. James Comey getting kicked off. I never really had much love for the dude to begin with, not because of Hillary or any of that crap, but he kind of fell in line, particularly the recent attack from the administration on WikiLeaks. This is a definite cause for alarm. If you feel compelled to call your congressmen, your senators about it, please do, because this is a Watergate moment. This is an alarm bell. Trump may have something under his skirt, but I need you all to realize, maybe make a phone call, but don't spend all of your time on this. Because the real enemy is not only the Republicans who are in Congress, but the corporatist Democrats in Congress, the neoliberal system of capitalism that we live under that has created the bad trade deals and the track towards climate Armageddon, and the fact that we still don't have single payer in this country, even though every other modern country already does. I don't want this movement that's been gaining such momentum since Sanders, and even more since the unbelievable happened. The unbelievable happened, and the orange one became president. I don't want that energy to go away or dissipate just because Trump gets impeached. Because we're still going to be on a freight train headed off a cliff. And we're going to need all hands on deck to pull the brakes. So those are just like some stray thoughts on what's going on with James Comey. I wanted to touch on this article. This is from Democracy Now! And this alarms the heck out of me. I was listening to their show about it earlier. This is from Truth Dig. It's aggregated from Democracy Now!, but they summarize it pretty well. This is May 9th. Thanks to Trump's FCC, one broadcast group may control 72% of local television. Many Americans may not have heard of the Sinclair Broadcast Group, but the company may soon be responsible for more than a third of U.S. local TV stations. As reported on Democracy Now!, the broadcast company is close to finishing a $4 billion deal to purchase Tribune Media. They went on to talk to Craig Aaron, who's president and CEO of the organization Free Press. Aaron begins by discussing Ajit Pai, the new head of the Federal Communications Commission under President Trump. We're really concerned about so many things happening at the FCC right now because Ajit Pai, Donald Trump's pick to head the agency, has been dismantling all kinds of consumer protections and regulations, Aaron says. And at the same time, they're unleashing unprecedented wave of media consolidation, allowing a company like Sinclair to expand far, far beyond the limits that were established by Congress and how many stations one company should be allowed to own. He then lays out how the broadcasting group has ties to the Trump administration, noting that Sinclair is no longer worried about the FCC getting in the way of the deal because it is the FCC who is arranging for them to be able to pull off these mega deals. This goes back to a lot of discussions we've been having about the Trump administration, kind of comparing them to former Republican and former Democratic administrations in the sense that the mask is off. It's no longer going to be about, there's not going to be a government agency like the FCC who's going to be the voice of reason. It's not going to be about corporations working their way to a certain outcome that they want. The mask is off. Corporate governance has come full circle, and this is where we're at. The FCC is not only no longer an obstacle, but they are expediting this process. It goes on to say, if they get this deal done and all their pending deals, Sinclair will reach 72% of the U.S. population. At a time where we need more local news, more competition, more choices, better informed communities, what we're getting is the same cookie-cutter content coast to coast. One of the really alarming things, particularly Sinclair, is they represent a broadcast group that was really in the tank for Trump during the election. It's very right-wing. And by having 3/4 of the nation's network local news, they are going to be able to have editorial control and at least editorial influence on the way that the news is presented, on maybe like what side of the political spectrum it comes from. They've already talked about how this networks, they were talking more in the interview about how like local news that is under the Sinclair umbrella, a lot of local reporters are kind of kept from covering local issues involving corruption or protests because of people above their head want them to have more of a right-wing slant. And this is very dangerous because what we'll see is, again, we're at this weird place in American history where the majority of the American population wants progressive values, and they want not even necessarily leftist, but are anti-oligarchy, anti-corporate. And there's now going to be 75% of local media under the umbrella of a corporation who's going to have it in their interests to tell the very same people who are seething with contempt for the establishment that, the establishment is just fine. Corporatism is just fine. It's just fine that we can have a monopoly on local news. And this, coupled with how endangered net neutrality is right now, it is going to restrict the flow of information that we have access to. One of the real points of light in this struggle is that we have had a free and open internet. That even when the mainstream media has failed us, even when our local news doesn't give us what we need, we can build alternative structures online. Now, if net neutrality gets killed, it is going to be much, much more difficult to have such a robust underground network. It's going to be harder for me to find news stories that try to dig under the layer of BS that the establishment shovels over all of the true stories that I try to report on the show. It's going to be far more difficult. Because, me and being broadcasters like me, the Jimmy Dores, the Nico Houses, even like TYT and the Jordan Sheratons of the world, they don't have millions and millions of dollars. The humanist reports, the secular talks, the Tim Blacks, so on and so forth. We have. I'm lucky enough to have a radio station that lets me come on and talk about these issues, these local issues, these national issues, in a true and meaningful way. A lot of folks, they have a YouTube channel. That's how people get their news. Granted, I certainly don't have as big a following as basically all the people I just mentioned, but that's their outlet. That's how they get the truth to the people. And if we get a stranglehold on both a monopoly on local news outlets, if that gets coupled with an end to net neutrality, the golden age is over, folks. We're going to be back to an information, not necessarily a desert, but it is going to be way, way more difficult. We will have to build outside structures. We'll probably have to build our own, like a resistance internet, a revolution internet, I should say. We'll have to build alternatives because we are no longer going to have a platform for the truth. It's very alarming. Very alarming. And again, I'm very grateful that the people here at WIDR give me this platform to invite people in the community to talk about local issues in a clear and transparent way, and for me to talk to all of y'all at home about these stories and dig under the crap to tell y'all what's really going on. So, we're running to just about the end of the program. There's a couple of things I wanted to kind of give a shout out to before I go. Couple of events coming up here in town, very important. So, tomorrow, there is going to be an event. There's going to be a protest at Fred Upton's home office out in St. Joe. And they are boarding buses for it. There's going to be a bus boarding for it tomorrow around 2:30. That's 1009 East Stockbridge, and that's the Flipping Fred event. So that's hosted by Pro K Zoo. You can go to their webpage on Facebook and find that. And the actual rally, if you can't make it on the bus, but you want to get to St. Joe, that's at 4 o'clock at 720 Main Street, St. Joseph, Michigan. Other events going on this weekend. Excuse me. On Friday, May 12th, if you want to support John Hoadley, he is going to be there at Nico's Landing. It's a benefit fundraiser. And also, it's going to be tables with all kinds of activist groups from all over the city are going to be joining there. He's giving them a platform to get people involved. So, again, that's at Nico's Landing Banquet Center from 5 o'clock to 7. And let me see here. Yeah, I knew there was more stuff. Couple things going on Saturday at 2 p.m. at Parchment Community Library. Or no, I guess that's at Parchment High School now. Jack Lesenberry is going to be visiting. He is a political analyst for Michigan Public Radio. I've drawn from some of his articles on the show before. He is dogged and a really great source for, basically corruption and political issues going on at the Michigan state level. And also going on, excuse me, Saturday at 6 p.m., KNOW, that's Kalamazoo Nonviolent Opponents of War. They're going to be at the Kalamazoo First Congregational doing a benefit show, and that's going to feature the Corn-Fed Girls, Thunderbolt, and Lightfoot. Caitlin Rose and Matt Gross. And that starts at 6 o'clock. You can find that on the Facebook page. And again, that's a fundraiser for nonviolent opponents of war. And let me see. I'm going to double check real quick, make sure that's all the stuff coming up until next Wednesday. Oh, that actually, a couple other things to mention. There's a Get to Know Your Muslim Neighbors event. That's Monday, May 15th at 6 p.m. over at the Kalamazoo Public Library in Oshtemo. On Tuesday, May 16th at 4 p.m., Kalamazoo College Arcus Center is holding a social justice symposium. And also May 16th, Tuesday at 7, is the Kalamazoo County Board meeting. And I believe there will be some folks there to talk about Line 5. So, anyway, keep your dial locked. There's more on the way. I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR. Want y'all to keep fighting for the truth, keep fighting for that revolution solution, and I will be back next week.